Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who made the right choice tonight. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. Does that mean because I'm letting you edit instead of me so I can leave early?
I mean, you've made two right choices then. The other correct choice that we both made was, do we watch Monterrey Sporting KC in the CONCACAF Champions League? Or do we watch the US Women's National Team World Cup tune-up game against Australia? Mm-hmm. Correct choice because the game we watched, the American team won, didn't lose 5-0. Also, we saw more goals. We saw 8 goals. You only saw 5 if you watch Monterrey Sporting KC.
This is true. Yeah. I'm actually still, I think I made 3 good choices because I also chose the lamb hash pita for dinner. And that was excellent as well. Thank you, Pops Market.
Oh, Pops Market. If you're ever in Richmond, go to Pops Market on Grace.
Do it.
Yeah. It's part of the Total Soccer Show family in many ways.
I mean, they made Alexis Guerrero's happy when it comes to food.
Yeah.
And I think that's no
it's a high bar.
Yeah.
That's a high bar. Yeah.
Indeed. But yes, also I'm very happy that we chose this game because it was exciting and entertaining and confusing and fun and worrisome all at once.
Yes, I think concerning is a word you use.
It is.
Right? Mm-hmm. So why are you slightly concerned about this?
I'm going to go back to 2015 for a minute, the 2015 Women's World Cup, where there was a lot of negativity around the team.
The good old days.
The good old days. Well, sort of, except that
in many ways.
Except that there was a lot of negativity in those first group stage games of like the US not really convincing. But I think you and I watched those games multiple times, as we do, and we felt like, no, we can see patterns here. We can see how they're trying to execute a game plan, and it's working. It's just not working with, like 15 goals in each game. And so I think that kind of gave us comfort as they went to the knockout rounds. Here tonight, there were moments when I was like, okay, I can understand exactly what they're trying to do.
Yeah, there were patterns. We'll talk about them. There were lots of very specific patterns.
But I think there were also moments where within those patterns, I was sort of like, wait, hold on, what? That player's there now? And then that player's there? And then wait, hold on, they've moved over there? And and there was just a little bit too much rotation. That relates to the substitutions as well. But it was just also there were moments where I was a little bit like, ooh, they're just kind of throwing numbers forward and seeing what works. So they're kind of kicking it long and seeing if that works. And so sometimes that was intentional. Sometimes it felt like it was let's see if this sticks. And sometimes it did.
I think, for a team that won 5-3, we have a lot of critiques for the defending kind of all over the field, right? We'll get into those. I think we'll go goal by goal because I think in a good way, the goals here chronologically tell the story of the game. Before we get into it, worth mentioning, we're going to be doing a giveaway on today's show. Caitlin Murray, who you should know because she's been on the Total Soccer Show and she writes for The Athletic and many, many other places. Caitlin Murray has written a book, The National Team, The Inside Story of the Women Who Changed Soccer. That book is now out. Taylor and I have a copy each that we can read and we're not going to share. We have a third copy that we're going to give away. Listen to the end of the show for details of the giveaway and how you can enter.
Yes. And speaking of Caitlin, we've had Caitlin on the show multiple times now. She has always kind of urged caution, I think, when it comes to like overreacting to the results of the women's national team. I think after some of the recent friendlies, I was a little bit more concerned. She was like, no, this kind of happens, whatever. And so I think that's also worth remembering because I'm also thinking that if the U.S. men's team beat a seeded team going into the World Cup 5-3, we'd be pretty excited. And I think it's worth
thinking about. If you're not familiar with women's soccer, Australia's standing in the women's soccer game is much higher than the men's team, right? And they've been up and coming for a while, and they've arrived in many ways, right?
And yet they still have 16-year-olds coming through. It's terrifying. But and so I would just say that it's worth remembering that like the bar for the women's team is so different because on the one hand, there were moments where we both were like, ooh, that's not good. That probably needs to be fixed. But you're also still beating a seeded team heading into the World Cup. So it's not like it's a disaster or there's anything too negative about it.
This would be like, I mean, if the men's team was much better, I think it'd be like the men's team beating Belgium, weirdly, right? A team that's been on the up but is now actually considered a threat or a genuine threat to win something.
Which the women will probably be doing on Sunday?
Well, they play the women's Belgian team who did not make the World Cup.
They did not.
Not quite as good.
They did not.
I don't know much about them, but the fact they didn't make the World Cup and that I can't name a single player suggests that maybe they don't have the standard.
Yeah, I don't think you need to qualify it. I think you're safe.
They didn't need to qualify either.
But we promised that
Belgium
was the
burn.
last.
Belgian women's national team burn.
We promised that is the last we will compare the U.S. women's team to the U.S. men's team.
Yes, because that's not a good way to do it.
Not so much, no.
Unless you want to make the men feel bad.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay, so do you want to get into the goals?
Let's do it.
Oh, no, do you know what? I'd actually like to get into the starting 11.
Okay.
Because when you see the starting 11 in a 4-3-3 shape, it's basically the first choice. I think this is Jill Ellis going with her first choice starting 11, with the exception of Kelly O'Hara at right back is injured. So Emily Sonnet comes in.
Yes.
Would you agree with that? The front three, the midfield three, and the rest of the back line is essentially Jill Ellis's first choice.
I think so. Yeah, I think probably...
Which is good. A couple months out from the World Cup, it's good to kind of know it.
If everybody's fully fit, I think so. I mean, Rose Lavelle, I guess they said at halftime was only going to get 45 minutes. That was pre-planned. So maybe there's like a fitness concern there. If she doesn't reach full fitness, then maybe she's not the starter. But yeah, I think that's an exception. The only other one, was Emily Sonnet.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Emily Sonnet's performance, which had a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah,
we say.
Yeah, definitely so.
In the press conference afterwards, Gillette was mostly pleased, though. All right, you want to get to the first goal? It's Alex Morgan with her 100th goal. Ball in the back of the net in the 14th minute.
It is, and it starts with a long ball over the top from Crystal Dunn.
Yep.
This one not quite as diagonal as some of the ones we saw from the U.S. in the first half, especially, but more so just kind of direct into the channel. Alex Morgan runs on, gives Polkinghome a little bit of a bump, who I think is already scrambling because she's misjudged this ball, and then a little bit of a shimmy move, gets past Kennedy, puts the ball in the net, 1-0 USA.
She puts a move on Kennedy. I have a theory on this goal.
It was power and finesse, I think, in this one, because it was the kind of body to Polkinghome, and then the skill on Kennedy. It was what you want to see from a striker.
Would you agree that Dunn mishit this ball down the line?
I don't know, but I understand why you think she might have.
Because I think she was trying to go long enough to go completely over the head of Polkinghome so Morgan could run in behind. But it actually bounces in front of Polkinghome. And if I was a Polkinghome apologist, I would say that's what confused Polkinghome. Because she was expecting to just have an aerial challenge or to be running backwards. Instead, it bounces in front of her, and suddenly she's like, what is going on here? And Alex Morgan takes advantage.
I mean, I think if you're a professional soccer player, you should be able to read a ball that's in the air and
adapt
to it. I think she misjudges it, and then I think realizes all of a sudden, Alex Morgan is putting me under pressure, and I misjudged, and I'm trying to scramble. And in that moment, then you're no longer kind of 100% focused on the ball the way Alex Morgan was.
Yeah.
Even if you're 90%, that 10% difference means you're probably going to end up losing.
Yeah.
But I do think that, it's probably underhit by Crystal Dunn. I initially thought that it was just sort of her sort of putting it into the channel and seeing what would happen. I think what we saw more so from the United States was a lot of movement off the ball to open up space in the channels for another runner to occupy.
Yeah, because it's important that it's Polkinghome because she's the right centre back. She's not the right back, and yet she's all the way out on that touchline because the right back Carpenter has moved all the way up. Is she tracking someone else?
I think she was tracking Megan Rapinoe, who had dropped in, and then Rose Lavelle also, who was kind of at that point the midfield rotated around a little bit, but Rose Lavelle had been on the left side. She also dropped very deep.
So Van Egmond had gone with her.
Yeah.
And she was the right side defensive midfielder.
Exactly. So then you've pulled those two players out of position, and I think then the center back has to come over to try to help out a little bit. Yeah. And I do think that was the intentional plan there for the United States, was pull players out so then you open up space.
So confuse, isolate, exploit.
And then hip check.
Yeah. And then hip check. Yeah. Plus a great finish from Alex Morgan.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the end. After, I was worried for her the first few minutes, she was taking a few of those weird shots that were... The angle wasn't on and she was taking the shot. And I always get worried about Alex Morgan. And suddenly she always pulls it out, right?
I don't think you need to worry about Alex Morgan. Her 100 goals would say
at
she's
least
doing
100 times she's pulled it out, yeah. So
but I think this was representative of what the United States were trying to do. As I said, I think we said earlier, I'm not sure, Abby Dahlkemper was the one who I think they were looking to get that ball, take a touch, and then play it into the channels. In the first 10 minutes, I think Tobin Heath was called offside 3 times. And I do think the U.S. was really trying to test Australia's back line. And one difference as we moved into the later stages of the first half and early stages of the second is I think Australia got more comfortable and confident in holding that line.
Yeah.
And the offsides went from marginal or just offside to, I think there was one point when one of the commentators said ooh, that was very offside. It was really obviously offside.
So why would the US be doing that? Just hitting balls when you think of the talent in the US and you think of they had nice movements through midfield several times, nice one-touch passes and layoffs, but then suddenly there would just be this almost Wimbledon FC 1990s, 80s, 90s style, just hit it in the channels and one of our wingers will run after it.
I know you didn't necessarily mean to do this, but I think your answer is in the fact that Australia go up 2-1 on the U.S., and it kind of comes about from when the United States does get caught out a little bit, and when the midfield is a little bit stretched or the midfield gives the ball away, Australia were very adept at countering quickly and taking those opportunities. And there may have just been an element of, with all the kind of fluidity of those 3 central midfielders for the U.S., we don't necessarily want to risk all of them getting caught out and suddenly there are huge gaps for Australia to exploit. So we'll vary it a little bit and we'll look long on occasion or frequently to keep Australia moving backwards and backwards and backwards and keeping them keeping them spread or keeping them defensive.
Yeah, because you make them go backwards if you hit those balls, right? Because you're not going to just be maybe Tobin Heath won't dribble through everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's talk about Australia's equaliser. Because we talked about, say, like Rose Lavelle pulling people out of position and the US midfield being a little bit, especially the three midfield. We haven't gone into detail on this yet, but the three midfield were very fluid in terms of rotating. That sort of caused the problem that led to Australia's equaliser.
Yeah, I mean, so Australia's equaliser in the 29th minute and like the 26th or 27th, we kept going backwards. Like we used like the 7-second rewind button, and every time there was a different player in the center of midfield for the United States.
Yeah.
And then when that sequence ends, that's when Julie Ertz has a word with Lindsey Horan. Then she goes over and has a word with Abby Dahlkemper, and you could tell that there's a little bit of confusion about who needs to be where and when. And I think they sorted it out, but that's obviously not the case because minutes later they end up conceding because they're kind of all over the place in midfield again.
Yeah, and so the actual setup, or at least the starting setup, is Julie Ertz as the very central midfielder and slightly deeper. She's essentially the number 6, right? Rose Lavelle to her right.
She's about as attacking as you can be and still be a number 6. That's one big difference. Is I think this is a very aggressive midfield that they're designed to get forward early and often.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Rose Lavelle to her right, Lindsey Horan to her left. But yeah, then they all start moving. And some of it is to like be open to receive passes and confuse Australia, make angles happen. But sometimes it just all goes wrong because when it's not fully coordinated, you end up with too many players on one side of the field, and then Australia can slice straight through you.
I know the analogy I'm about to use mostly from Wayne's World, and I think it's referencing Laverne and Shirley. Do you remember the thing where they're like working in the conveyor belt and like they're like putting like caps on a bottle or something like that, and it speeds up and they start messing up? That's the old like you can like put like one pill in a bottle and one pill in a bottle, one pill in a bottle, but then it starts speeding up and you struggle with it. That's what this felt like to me. Was like if it's all kind of slow and pre-programmed, like they can move around and it's no problem. But as soon as it starts to speed up, they start like running into each other. And I think that sequence that I was talking about when Julie Ertz comes over and has a word with Lindsey Horan, it's because Horan has run almost into Rose Lavelle in the exact same space.
Yeah.
And I think once you get a little more pressure and the movement gets a little bit faster, I think they lost a little bit of the rhythm.
So is that a thing worth being concerned about like 2 months from the World Cup? That's suddenly like maybe we should have this down by now?
I think so.
Maybe we shouldn't have been playing Mal Pugh in central midfield at the She Believes Cup.
I mean, I'm guessing they'll use these friendlies to continue to fine-tune, but I would say yes because it's where that first goal comes from. It's if you look at it, I think we posted a photo to Twitter. I called it like a narrow Christmas tree because it is a like 3-2-2-1 is almost the shape they have, but it's all the way over on the touchline.
And Lavelle and Horan are both over there.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. And then Ertz is deeper. I think she's with maybe one of the center backs. Maybe it's Dahlkemper who stepped out, but maybe that's when Crystal Dunn is further forward.
Crystal Dunn is
that's
definitely far forward,
And so I think then no one is entirely certain where they're supposed to be in relation to everybody else, and that's why when Australia break very quickly, they're able to just play it kind of central and then out wide, and they have huge gaps now and huge amounts of space to exploit.
Okay, we've got to talk about this goal.
Sure.
This is the goal where I had huge concerns about Emily Sonnet having any chance of winning that right-back spot. It gets better later.
It does.
Emily Sonnet fans, don't worry. US turns the ball over. I think they just lose a ball in the air, essentially. Australia have the ball on the floor, and we try to kind of counter-press, right?
Honestly, it's actually it's a shorter ball, but it's a similar ball from Becky Sauerbrunn this time to what we saw from Crystal Dunn. It's sort of playing a ball, not quite a moon ball, but definitely a lofted ball into that channel, except this time Australia are in position to win it and then launch that counter.
There we go. And we're trying to press up on them. I think in the end, it's Sam Kerr, right? The centre forward, the famous centre forward, who makes the very smart decision to come deep and show.
Yep.
And that's what lets Australia break the counter press. And then when Sam Kerr lays it off to, I believe it's Ford in central midfield, is that when Julie Ertz misses the tackle?
Yes.
Because in a weird way, I think Julie Ertz, she had to make a desperation tackle there because she knew that the entire other side was wide open because her midfielders are all to the left of her, so there's no one else to save them. And it doesn't come off.
No.
She misses the desperation tackle.
And this is kind of where I say, like, it's harsh, I think, to say she's a number 6 because you think of that as this kind of like defensive shield, and her job is to kind of slow play down if there is that counter.
I mean, it's a lot of slide tackling Julie Ertz does.
But I guess that's what I mean, is that you don't think of as your number 6 as like just throwing in slide tackles all over the place.
Yeah.
It's that sort of like show them one way, shield the back line. And I think this sequence is representative of what she was asked to do, which is kind of make those big defensive plays and put out the fire before it's fired.
Yeah, so you make up the sports center style tackle as opposed to the close down the angles.
Which she did several times. Yeah. She made a lot of like good sliding challenges to break up plays. Here, she's just not able to get a foot to it, so then it ends up, or she gets just a foot to it, but not enough, and it goes to Ford. Ford then plays it wide to Devanna, and in go Australia.
In go Australia, indeed. The reason I'm really concerned about Emily Sonnet here is I think Dahlkamper does the right thing when she steps out to Ford. Dahlkamper does the right thing when she points towards Devanna on the left, instructing Emily Sonnet to go marker. Emily Sonnet does the wrong thing by instead tucking inside and leaving Devanna wide open. All the angles are wrong.
I genuinely don't know what she's doing. And
maybe don't think she did in the moment.
I don't think she did either, because I think she's maybe trying to cover centrally, but what she actually ends up doing is dropping deep, which then breaks the back line. So when that ball does go to Devanna, we freeze framed it and took a look. If she hadn't dropped off the way she did, Devanna's offside. So I think if Sonnet number 1 holds that line, then Devanna's offside. But number 2, even if she didn't, if she does what Dahlkamper has asked and moves closer to Devanna, she can
just shuffles right, basically.
She can make a play on that ball, or at the very least, she's in a position to show Devanna wider and wider and wider.
Or if she does it really right, the pass isn't even on, and Ford has to beat Dahlkamper. In this case, Ford doesn't have to beat Dahlkamper because there's one of the greatest Australian players of all time is wide open on the left with a run at goal.
And so then even when Devanna gets that ball and goes in on goal, I think because of the kind of drop to the center that Sonnet has done, she then has to try to close down the angle and get wide. And even when she does kind of put the hands behind the back the way a defender does when the shot's coming, if you freeze frame it there, her angle is that she's protecting the far outside of the post. Like, she hasn't really taken away any of the angle on goal. At best.
She's not. So I noted it that if Devanna's shot had hit Emily Sonnet or had gone in the direction of Emily Sonnet, then he was aiming for the far touchline. It would have gone out for a throw-in. So Sonnet is not closing any of the angles to goal at all, which is why that Devanna strike looks so easy. She can really pick the top corner and stroke it in there.
And this is why I go back to why I have a few concerns coming out of this game. It's because if I had to guess at what happened here, I would say that Sonnet thinks she's further towards the right side of the field than she is. And I think she thinks, there's no way we're all just crowded over on the left-hand side. So when she drops in, I think she thinks she's dropping in towards the near post and only realizes too late, I'm actually pretty much on the other half of the field, so I need to slide all the way over, and then it's just too late. That's
the best possible explanation for what happened on this goal. Because Emily Sonnet's a much better defender than everything she did in that play, and I think, this is the reason why. And again, it goes to the when the bottles start coming so fast in the factory, everything's so confusing that no one knows which way is up and which way is down.
Laverne and Cheryl.
And Wayne and Garth, apparently.
Exactly.
I don't know. So I don't remember
before the Alice Cooper concert.
Okay. All right, so things get much better.
Topical reference for you kids out there.
Things get much better for Emily Sonnet in the second half. It's 1-1 at halftime. Before we move on to the other 6 goals.
I know, it's kind of terrifying.
Today's show is sponsored by HelloFresh. As I said last time, HelloFresh.
There we are. HelloFresh is a meal kit delivery service that shops, plans, and delivers step-by-step recipes and pre-measured ingredients so you can just cook, eat, and enjoy. Daryl and I enjoyed a not HelloFresh meal tonight, but as we were talking over our dinner, we were discussing how busy this summer is going to be. There are, 4 concurrent tournaments? Lots and lots of games to watch.
Women's World Cup, Gold Cup, Copa America, African Cup of Nations, probably another one we forgot.
There's probably more in there. Why not?
3 of the finals are on the same day.
Helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you, FIFA.
We're going to be busy.
Very lovely. Now, we do not have a kitchen in the office, but for you at home, who maybe are going to be watching a lot of soccer, it will be very easy to eat bad food consistently because there will be so many games that you're just going to try to grab food when you can through bloodshot eyes while staring at the television. But HelloFresh delivers the ingredients that you need to your door, and then you can make healthy, delicious recipes in only 30 minutes. So if you got a break between games, make that food, eat that food, right back to watching those games.
Yeah, and the good news is they're seasonal, simple recipes, so you'll be getting all that good summer stuff.
There you go. You're not eating a winter stew when it's 95 degrees outside and feeling even heavier.
You will not be. So there's also 3 different plans to choose from, as we mentioned before. Classic, veggie, or family. Take your choice for what suits you best. And you can switch it up if your tastes change, or I guess if your family grows.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have different menu features, so you could do 20-minute meals, gourmet options, one-pot wonders, so you've got different approaches, even in there, based on the level of complexity you're looking for.
And Jill Ellis has got a lot of tough choices to make in terms of putting the recipe together, putting a roster together. HelloFresh has made all those decisions for you. You won't have those Jill Ellis headaches of do I take Emily Sonnet or Ellie Krieger? It will all be decided for you when it arrives in the box with step-by-step instructions.
There you go. And then that allows you to spend less time meal planning, less time prepping, less time doing all the cleanup work at the end because it's all the like pre-portioned ingredients that you need so you can cook, eat, get right back to those games.
Still wash the dishes after.
I suppose you probably should. I suppose you probably should. So our TSS listeners can get $80 off their first month of HelloFresh by going to hellofresh.com/TSS80. Thank you, my friend. And entering the promo code TSS80 at checkout.
That's TSS80. So that's like receiving 8 meals free because you get $20 off your first 4 boxes.
So once again, hellofresh.com/TSS80. Thank you very much to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's episode and for helping us eat well when it's very easy not to do so.
The link will be in the show notes as well if you couldn't remember it. Okay. It was halftime.
It was.
Which is a good time to eat a meal.
We went back and watched some of the footage from the first half, including the goal kick. We can talk about that later. We were confused. We have some clarification.
Would you like to talk about that now?
Sure, we can do that.
Yeah. So there was a weird moment where the US took a goal kick in the 43rd minute.
Yep.
And it was played by Naya inside the box to Dahlkamper.
Yep.
We were like, no, that's illegal. What's going on?
Yeah.
Turns out it's not.
Nope.
Or it won't be as of June. So in the Women's World Cup, one of the new rules will be that you can receive the ball inside the box. They're trialing it, or at least getting used to it in this game.
Yes.
I also read somewhere that they used it in the She Believes Cup.
I believe they trialed it there too.
I somehow missed it, unfortunately.
And then opposition players have to start outside the 18, but can then pressure once the ball is played. And that's if there's been enough time. If like the goalkeeper tries to take a goal kick immediately, and opposition players are in front, it's kind of the goalkeeper's fault now.
So do we like this or not?
I think I do. I think because it's a new wrinkle. I think it's in response to how many teams are trying to build out of the back.
Yeah.
That now you can kind of vary it because how many times have we seen teams building out of the back by sending the 2 center backs wide, standing on opposite ends of the 18, and then the opposition team just kind of stands at the top of the 18 and waits for that ball to go.
Yeah.
So just being able to play it a little bit shorter, I like. I also really enjoy.
It encourages building out of the back. I didn't think of it that way.
I think
that's
does.
Exactly what it is. Yeah.
There you go. So that's one.
It's like having a build-out line like they do in the the kids stuff.
I don't love that as much. Yes, but I do because I think if anything, that's like a line that you're not allowed to cross. Whereas they're kind of making it easier to cross lines with this.
No, the opposition can't come inside the box, so it's like a build-out line that the possession team has.
Yeah. And then I also enjoy the substitution rule, the change there where basically you go out at the like touchline or end line that you're closest to, so that you don't have the slow walk, jog, applaud the fans, like opposition player comes over and shoves you off the field, everybody gets mad, that slows it down even further.
Is there any element of that you'll miss? Because I quite like the thing where
I'll miss it when the United States is up 1-0 and trying to see out a game.
Yeah, you can't use it as a weapon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But in general, good for the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at it from that perspective, both of these changes, I think there's a few other ones, but these two in particular designed to, I think, make like getting the ball back in play faster, easier, and then it allows kind of play to resume faster. I still like Barry Glendinnings's idea of making games 60 minutes, but the clock stops as soon as it goes out of bounds.
Yeah.
But I doubt that's going to happen.
Maybe we'll get into all the law changes at some point before June, because it'll be interesting to see them. How many people are taken by surprise when they happen?
I mean, we were, so probably more people will be as well.
All right, so US makes one change at halftime.
Oh, but I brought all that up just to say that we were then went back and watched all like the 2 goals. We watched this to try to figure out what happened. We fast forward, and suddenly Australia were ahead, and we were sort of like, "Wait, what happened now?
Yeah.
What's going wrong here?
What did happen?" Well, we'll talk about what happened. Right. One notice that Rose Lavelle you mentioned came out at halftime. Sam Mewis came on, and on first watch, it looks like this goal the goal that Ford scores is kind of Sam Mewis's fault. And it still sort of is, but not in a horrific way, right? And if anything, if we're going to point fingers of blame, it's probably Lindsay Horan.
I think so.
Yeah?
I think so because she comes, like, from the start, I think, like, in the 60 seconds before the ball's in the back of the net for Australia, Lindsay Horan makes 3 different bad plays that she miscontrols one, she miscontrols again, then she has a bad pass. The United States get the ball back. Julie Ertz gets it, plays the ball into, like, tries to play a ball to Alex Morgan, but it's under hit and Alex Morgan's under pressure, and Australia win the ball back right away.
Kennedy steps, a good step from Kennedy.
And I think the thing that you spotted here was that this was Australia maybe transitioning into more of a high-pressure situation,
I think
and
that's
the
why
United States
Lindsay
were not prepared for it.
That's why Lindsay Horan had so much trouble.
Yeah.
I think suddenly we weren't able to just knock passes around. Australia were like, we're coming for you.
Yeah. And I think, and then with the sort of ruthlessness of the first goal, you saw it here again. I mean, it's one, and then it's played in, and then it's like a quick combination, and then it's really skillful from Ford, but it's all sort of direct towards goal consistently, and it ends with the United States failing to block that shot.
I want to give real credit to Ford here, because after Kennedy intercepts and steps forward, she plays the pass aiming for Ford, and Ford does that great fake that I love, where you fake like you're going to receive the ball, but then you let it go, and it goes to Sam Kerr, who's come and shown, but then Ford is running off of Sam Kerr.
She also screams for it when that ball comes, so it definitely seems like she's demanding it, but she also checked behind her right before she started screaming, so she knows she's going to dummy it, but the yelling pulls defenders towards her, so then they've all kind of bit and stepped forward, and then that dummy happens, and now you're scrambling.
This is a really, really good move. Also credit to Sam Kerr, because she sort of has a weirdly minimal role in she obviously scores the third goal with her head. She has a minimal role in the first 2 goals, and she doesn't do a great deal during the game, but she's so influential in terms of her coming and showing and laying off, especially this goal here.
Yep.
All right, so she lays it off for Ford, who'd faked it. Great move for Ford. Then it's Ford against Sam Mewis, and it's basically I don't even know how to describe this, Tony. It's not quite a Cruyff because there's a little more to it.
Yeah.
How would you describe it?
It's close to a Cruyff because it is the sort of fainting like you're going out towards because it's Kerr's body is away from goal, but she kind of faints like she's going right. Ford, excuse me. She faints like she's going outside to her right, but then she turns with the inside of her right and does sort of that Cruyff. So I think those two kind of throw off Kerr, who's
Mewis.
See, I'm confused by it. Yeah, throw off Mewis, and it's sort of I'm going to say it's like a Cruyff turn on steroids.
There we go.
Yeah,
we are not suggesting that Ford is on steroids.
No.
Sam Mewis is on the floor after this turn, and so I'm actually not sure what to think about this now because I started off thinking maybe it's not her fault, but also maybe just don't bite on it.
Again, I think it's the scramble of the dummy, and then combined with the United States turning over possession and Australia being a bit more direct once they do get that ball. I think it's just the U.S. sort of trying to put out the fire again, but struggling to do so, and because they're sort of doing last ditch defending here. Yeah. And this was again, it goes back to my concern about when you've got players kind of shifting all over the place. I think what was evident to me is that then when the U.S. would get the ball or wouldn't get the ball, they sort of didn't know where other players were. And so I think there was a period of time in the second half where they really struggled to reestablish possession because when they'd win the ball back, they'd look to play it right to their left, except the player who was on their left was actually on the right, and the other player who was supposed to be on the right was further up the field. And so then you had to kind of change it as you went. And I think this is an example from US of, I'm not supposed to be marking this person, but I guess I am, and I've been beaten.
Yeah, and it's a rough start, right? You just sub in, and 2 minutes later that happens. Yeah.
It's not quite the Mallory Pugh substitution.
The reverse Mallory Pugh. But it gets better for Sam Mewis as well, just like it does for Emily Sonnet. Because from 2-1 down, not too many minutes later, the US equalise. I want to say 8 minutes later. And soon after that, they take the lead, make it 3-2. But it's a lot of frantic football. I think of this period as the US just basically banging in a load of crosses and seeing what happens. The good news is that what happens is 2 goals. So, how do we feel about this?
I mean, I think I feel way better about the USA's 4th goal than I do about either of these goals. Not to say that these weren't good goals, but it's because these were, as you said, I think it's just kind of throwing bodies into the box, putting the ball into the box, crossing it and crossing it and crossing it and crossing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's good that you have that determination to fight back and get a goal back pretty quickly. It's 6 minutes later thereabouts. But it still was it wasn't quite the passing combination, reestablishing possession, slowing it down and sort of becoming the very dominant team. It was a bit more frenetic.
Yeah, but there's also that, Jello's talked in the post-match press conference about the sort of will to win. Maybe the frenetic, let's just go at them, maybe that is the will to win and that works for this team, as opposed to, all right, we're going to possess and figure this out and take it slow. It's more of it's a little fiercer maybe than that. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's part of what makes this US women's national team tick. Should we talk about this equalising goal?
Sure.
Is it it's correct me if I'm wrong, it's the Tobin Heath header is the equaliser. It's a wonderful Sonnet cross.
Yes.
And it's really perfect.
And to your point about it getting better from US, it's her, she plays in the first ball that I think is, it goes to Megan Rapinoe, it's really well hit, Rapinoe tries to cross it, and it ends up going back over, Emily Sonnet's able to collect and play it back in, and it's a Tobin Heath header.
Oh, lovely, lovely stuff.
So it's lovely stuff there, and I think you also spotted that a key part of this is Rapinoe gets that first ball, tries to cross it. I think it's deflected, which is why it spills all the way back out to the right channel.
Yeah.
And Rapinoe, rather than sort of being frustrated or kind of standing up and then standing at the far post, she makes a near post run and again takes Australian players with her, and it opens up that back post.
It takes 2 defenders with her, so that's why Tobin Heath is absolutely free at the back post. And then really all Emily Sonnet has to do is just perfectly wait and aim that ball onto her head at the far post. Not easy to do necessarily, but she does it.
She does.
2-2 United States. Soon after, 8 minutes after that, 3-2, that great Megan Rapinoe strike. I feel like a lot of people remember this goal from this game.
Yeah, I would say so, because it looks for a moment like, she's taking a heavy touch, she's going away from goal, there's no way they're going to, nope, she scored. It's really that quick of a change of direction and a change of direction in terms of the way the game was going, too.
I think the thing we noticed in the end is that this is part of the Megan Rapinoe skill set, right? Is that she can be dribbling away from goal. And then at best, she's sort of facing the far touchline. She's like lateral almost. And yet she manages to swivel and strike at the same time, and I'm pretty sure that's what takes the goalkeeper by surprise. She did not know that this shot from Megan Rapinoe was coming.
No, and I think she also didn't expect Megan Rapinoe to know like exactly where she was in relation to the goal to be able to put it in that like bottom corner. But I think it's also, this highlights what Megan Rapinoe brings to the table, which is not just goal scoring ability, but similar to the goal we just mentioned, where she's involved, but then she's back at it and trying to like make a play on the ball again. Here, it's the ball crossed in by Sam Ewes, who admittedly got away from 3 different Australian players before playing this ball in. But it's poorly cleared by Yallop, and it's, again, Rapinoe making the run to try to get on the end of it. The poor clearance happens, and Rapinoe's then back at it trying to collect that ball, which she does, and then get it under control, and then get that shot off.
What was Yallop doing? Because I remember this is like, she kind of just flicks it with the outside of her foot, which is not any sort of clearance.
I think she was backpedaling, and the cross went in front of her, so she's trying to like reach for it, and I think that's why she's not able to get like the full swing through clearance. She just tries to get a toe to it, and so it's kind of a muffled clearance.
She's not planning the flick
not so much
necessarily. All right, so that's 3-2 United States. There's really not that much more to say about that goal, especially because the fourth goal is the one we want to talk about.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
This is Malpew off the bench scores within 37 seconds in her hometown. That's a great story. I kind of want to talk about Malpew's impact and how the US use her, but the build-up is what's really good about this goal.
Yeah, this is why, like I was saying, this is the goal that I think if you're a US fan looking for sort of like, okay, they know where they are, they know how to attack in the box with tight space, this is the one, because it's some no-look passing, it's runs off the ball, but it's like being aware that I'm going to turn and lay this ball off, and there will be a person there making that run.
Yeah.
That's all factors in this goal.
Third player running is, I guess, what you would call Mallory here, which is always dangerous, right? So it starts with Emily Sonnet, wonderfully. So it's Sonnet sort of makes a nice little dribble into the box, gives it to Alex Morgan, then keeps running. Morgan has a bit of a dribble, doesn't ever look up.
Nope.
And does, I think, the move we call the Billy Baldwin, like the drag back and then in-step reverse pass that no one sees coming, back into the feet of Emily Sonnet. And then I think maybe my favourite part about this is the one-time layoff from Sonnet into that Malpew third player running. I'm always impressed by a one-time layoff.
I mean, it's impressive. It's also impressive, again, because I don't think we saw Sonnet give much of a shout. Like, we didn't see her screaming for the ball, and Alex Morgan just knows it. So, again, this is where I say that it feels like it's patterns of play, it's familiarity of the attack to know, like, oh, she's in there, I can have this little flick, and she'll be on the end of it. And then it's the awareness of Mallory Pugh is going to be running through, or somebody will be crashing the goal. Yeah. So it is that kind of one-time layoff.
Oh, lovely. And then in the post-match press conference, Gilles talked about Mallory Pugh's role as a game changer. And I know, again, I mentioned earlier she was tried as a central midfielder in the She Believes Cup. It seems to me that Mallory Pugh will be not in the first 11, because the wingers in the first 11 are definitely Tobin Heath and Megan Rapinoe. There's no arguing with that, right? But late in a game, if Rapinoe or Heath are tired, or if you just want a bit of an extra something special, something to scare the opposition, Mallory Pugh coming off the bench is not anything a left back or even a right back wants to see.
No,
right?
Certainly not. I mean, I would say the same for lots of players who came into this game. I mean, subbing in Carly Lloyd, who put in some pretty aggressive challenges and maybe could have gotten a couple bookings herself, but like having Carly Lloyd come in the bench, having Kristen Press come off the bench. I think we had McDonald warming up. She didn't come on that I remember, but there's so much depth there. But I do think of all those players, it is going to be Mallory Pugh who is going to be that sort of number one impact. Tired defender, tired legs, put her on and let her go at that tired defender. And
it's, again, like I don't get into a full Mallory Pugh analysis, but what I see is pace with a purpose, right? Like, she uses her pace not just to run at people, but to be that player arriving late, like she was on the first goal. And then obviously, the second goal we'll mention later is a lot about her getting in behind them.
Yeah, I'd say so. Before we get to that goal, should we get to today's other sponsor?
I would love to.
All right.
Today's other sponsor is Talisman Caps.
So I've already said that it's going to be a busy summer. Maybe you're not going to have time to eat properly, so HelloFresh has you covered. Maybe if you're not going to have time to style your hair, or if you're going to wake up and you
that's a busy summer if you never style your hair.
I'm just saying, if you're waking up late and you've got to get to the bar to watch a game, get to your friend's house to watch a game, just throw on a Talisman cap and then you're covered, because then you're on theme. You've got the soccer hat and you look fashionable as well, because you go the flat brim and look like you're the fashionable youngster, but at the same time you don't even have to worry about your hair. You just put a hat on and you're covered.
And this isn't just any cap
literally
company.
And figuratively.
This isn't just any cap company. This is a company that is all about soccer, right? The idea behind Talisman was to produce the perfect cap to support football. If you're a soccer fan, this is the cap company.
This is very true, because they've got team-specific hats. They've got idea-specific hats, support local over there, the street soccer hat that I was wearing earlier today. But then they've got the individual player hats.
Yeah, the icons.
If you're a fan of the U.S. women's national team, they've got a Brandy Chastain one.
Is she doing the celebration?
She is doing the celebration. They've got a Mia Hamm one. Mia Hamm is dribbling this time. That's good. And then they've got like other U.S. soccer ones. They've got like the World Cup 94 throwback hat. But then they've got iconic players, not just from the women's game, but from the men's game as well.
And they've also just got club-specific ones, right? There's one with a cannon on it. There's one with a cockerel on it. You can figure out who those teams are supporting, who those caps are for.
I think there's even a Red Devil one.
Is there really? Worth remembering, this is an independent company as well. This is one of those soccer brands that is like born in the United States. They are in St. Paul or Minneapolis. St. Paul, Minnesota is where they are based. Lots of Minnesota gear there as well, if that's your thing.
This is true. So if that's your thing, or if any of the hats we've described as your thing, you can use the discount code TOTALSOCCER20 to get 20% off your order with a minimum purchase of $35, which is the price of one hat.
That's TOTALSOCCER20 at talismancaps.com for 20% off. Again, link will be in the show notes. Thank you to Talisman for sponsoring the Total Soccer Show.
Thank you indeed. So, as we said, Mallory Pugh having just subbed on, getting that goal, that's a positive. The United States then, we think, switched to a 4-1-4-1.
Oh, yeah, I want to talk about this. This is interesting.
Which I thought at the time was a more defensive approach. We're going to kill the game off. We're going to get more numbers in the middle and kind of keep everybody in a little bit more of a static position. And then we're going to force Australia to make a play to beat us. And then kind of disconcertingly is that they do. They then score after the United States switch to this 4-1-4-1.
Well, but I think, I want to get into this maybe in a second, but part of the reason that the US makes so many substitutions, that even though they have that shape, they start rearranging where everybody's playing. And I think it gets a little bit confusing. But I want to get to this 4-1-4-1 thing for a second, because we didn't really talk about the US's defensive shape before the 4-1-4-1. And I think it was weird but interesting but good that they actually defended in a 4-3-3. Which teams don't normally do. Right? Normally the wingers pull really wide and it looks like a 4-5-1 or something like that. They really had like a front three, like a front flat three that would prevent Australia coming out of the back in the first half.
So why do you like that? So if Australia gets by that, why do you like them being in a 4-3-3?
Because for the most part they couldn't get by that. I think it's really hard to pull off, because if you've got three central midfielders and three like central attackers defending, the ball out wide should always be on, weirdly. But I kept seeing things like Megan Rapinoe and Tobin Heath would still manage to not go out wide to cut off the angle. They'd actually just use the central, like stay central, but use the angle, cut off the angle, so the fullback still could not receive the ball. I think that's just really hard to do, and I think the US pulled it off in the first half.
Well, I guess my question then is, you say that, but like they went 2-1 down within 47 minutes. So would you say that was like an outlier? That was a different situation?
I think in the second half, it's just Australia pressing the US when the US had the ball, right? Is what led to that, the goal at the start of the second half. The first goal is the US trying to counter-press up in the corner, but more when Australia just more slowly brought the ball out, the US had that like 4-3-3 and Australia could not find a way through it, right? And the US would then pressure, and it's hard work to do that, right? So one of the things Jonas talked about in the post-match press conference is switching to the 4-1-4-1 because you're in Colorado and it's at altitude. But I think our suspicion is also that maybe this is practicing a thing the US might do to try and close down a game at the Women's World Cup.
I mean, that would make sense to me.
You can't press for 90 anywhere.
Yeah, you definitely cannot. But I think, again, it's also for me, it was the first time. I disagree with you a little bit, to be honest, about the 4-3-3, because I felt I think that's part of the reason why I'm not as optimistic or not as like positive coming out of this, is because there was just so much fluidity to it, and especially when you compound that with the substitutions, that it felt like, okay, wait, now, like Tobin Heath, as an example, I think played at least 3 different positions, maybe 4 in this game.
Yeah.
And to me, I think it was just a little bit too much of, wait, hold on, where's Lindsay Horan? Wait, where's Mallory Pugh now? Wait, where's Kristen Press?
Yeah.
And so
I agree with all that once the substitutions start,
And I guess that kind of coincides with the shift to a 4-1-4-1, but it did feel like that was the first time in this game, at least defensively, where it was like 4-1-4-1, we could tell. I think you're right that it was like 4-3-3, that was the rough shape, but then sometimes it was super narrow and like on the whole left side, all the players, but then sometimes it was spread out, and then sometimes it was on the right. And to me, that was just a little bit too like fluid and changing, and the 4-1-4-1 I think was a little bit it easier for the players to know where they needed to be and where their kind of positioning was and then function within that system.
I think the biggest thing is there's no counter press, right? When the US lost the ball, they wouldn't all go charging after it in the last half an hour or so. It was more of a, okay, we sit back and we absorb. Like, so more, maybe that's the more important thing than the actual shape. Right? Yeah, it's just a bit more sitting off.
And I guess jumping ahead to the fourth goal for a second, because I also think that was part of the tactic, is sit off, invite the opposition forward, invite them in. Yeah, the fifth goal. And then look to hit long, especially from Listenayer, because it happens for that goal, but even before that, when Alex Morgan is still in, she gets that ball and looks for Alex Morgan, like kind of diagonally into the channel again.
Yeah.
But it is Alex Morgan like hugging that defensive line who have pushed way up because Australia are trying to get numbers in. And again, that was a sort of pattern that I did enjoy from the United States, was almost rope it up, pull them in, and then hit them long on the break, because obviously Alyssa Nair has that distribution.
Oh, yeah. But Australia do score.
They do.
In the 81st minute, I believe. It's a great Sam Kerr header. But there's a bit of a defensive mix-up down the US's. It's the US's left flank, Australia attacking down the right flank.
Yes, and it's Tina Davidson who subbed in. She's kind of matched up 1v1 with Carpenter. Carpenter does a very good job to hold the ball up, turn it back, keep it in bounds, first from not going out for a goal kick, then for not going out for a throw-in. And then I think does a good enough job holding it up that Kristen Press decides to go help Tina Davidson.
In quotation marks?
Yeah, because then she leaves the player that she's supposed to be marking, which allows a wide-open service into the box. Yeah, and I think that's the U.S. sort of the individual mistakes that we saw on a couple different occasions in this game. This is another example of that. If Kristen Press stays, I mean, it's
or just marks Rasso and lets Tina Davidson deal with Carpenter.
Yeah, because it's Carpenter. It's not so dissimilar to me from when a player is dribbling away from goal and the defender fouls. That it's Carpenter's going away from goal, really like facing her own goal. Doesn't like it's not like she's going to turn and whip in across.
Davidson's got her.
Yeah, Davidson's got her, or at least has her in a position where the ball has to go backwards. And if Press is there marking Rasso, then when it goes backwards, she can step and win it, to the point where I think if you waited 5 more seconds, it ends up being Carpenter tries to turn and do something else, and then that ball is won.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And then I weirdly feel like no blame on Dalkamper for Kerr winning the header, because it just looked like Kerr was unbeatable in the air.
I mean, it's a header from like at least 12 yards out, and it's just really well placed. It's a perfect header, because from that distance, it has to either be incredibly powerful or incredibly well placed, and I think it's more placement than power on this one. Still a powerful header, but it's just the location that Alyssa Nair cannot get to.
So we've touched on it a couple of times, but we definitely felt like the number of substitutions that required repositioning of US players in the last 10-15 minutes was kind of frustrating, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
In my head, at least, if you're going to practice a 4-1-4-1, you should maybe, or seeing out a game kind of thing, at least do it with the people who are going to be playing there, as opposed to also having everybody rotate positions every 10 minutes. Right?
Yeah, because
Tobin Heath was all over the place. Tina Davidson's not a left back, right?
And that moves Crystal Dunn to right back. Yeah. And you've got Kristen Press, who was playing on like the left side of that 4-1-4-1, but then she ends up being the center forward when Alex Morgan goes off. Then Carly Lloyd comes on, and Julie Ertz, who when Carly Lloyd subs on is like attacking a ball in the box, then realizes like, oh, I'm a center back now, and has to get all the way back to be a center back. And so at that point, I guess that, again, is why I had a little bit more frustration with this game, because coming out of it, it was sort of like, wait, but is Julie Ertz going to be a center back, or was that just a thing we were trying for a minute because that's what we had to do?
I got the feeling it was more about getting players on the field just to give everybody a few minutes.
But is that what we should be doing? Is that ideal?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think, and I said this, and like I don't mean for it to sound as bad as it's going to sound, but I said this live, was that it felt like us just trying to kind of figure stuff out late in one of our games. That it's like, you go play right mid. Why not? You're usually a forward, but our other forward is in good form, so you go play as like a right winger and we'll see what happens. And it was just, again, I agree with you that it was trying to get bodies on the field to get everybody some minutes, but is that worth the price of like, I'm not saying it was this extreme, but like, I know you're right back, but we want to get you some minutes, so go play left wing. It's just like, does that accomplish the goal?
Here's the positive version of this, which is Jill Ellis was doing this from the start of games in March in the She Believes Cup. At least it was only the last 10-15 minutes we were doing this as we get closer to the World Cup.
Yes.
And during the World Cup, she won't have 6 subs.
She will not. She will not. One thing I think we should prepare ourselves for when it comes to this summer's World Cup, I did not have a problem with this. I know some people do not like them. Buckle up for some short corners, because I think that was another kind of trend we noticed from this game.
Yeah, because that is a thing to take away. There's a lot of US patterns that we saw. For example, the pull Australia forward, then hit them with a long ball for someone to run in behind. But yeah, you paid particular attention to the corners, right?
Well, because it was strange to me because at first I thought like, oh, they're trying to kill the game off because it was in the second half that they would take a corner and like play it short and then play it back and then play it all the way back to the center backs. And it felt like, oh, okay, they're just trying to pull Australia out and frustrate them. But then usually when it would be a short pass back, another short pass back, then a short pass back to a center back who would then play the ball back into kind of like the mixer, as it were. And suddenly when that happens 3 times in a row, you realize like, oh no, they're doing that on purpose. That Australia, either they're doing it to pull Australia out or they know Australia are chasing, so they're going to send runners out aggressively forward, and then you can play that ball in and now you've got numerical advantage.
Yeah.
Or it's that.
I think that's it, right?
Or it's just that you kind of make them step a little bit, even if they go from defending a corner to getting to the top of the box, when they're moving forward and if that ball is played and you've got a player running the opposite way, it's just a quick transition for Australia that might be difficult. But then there were times when the United States, instead of going short back, ball in, it would just be short back, ball in. Yeah. And so you would get that variation on it too. So
Australia couldn't be ready for one specific thing, right?
Exactly.
It could be either.
Yeah. Which again, I know people don't love short corners, but if you look at the percentages of success in terms of even turning a corner into a shot on target, that's low. Turning a corner into a goal is even lower. So anytime you can kind of vary it and make Australia or your opponent generally, but Australia in this case, do something different or pull them out of position or get them in a moment of transition, it gives you much better odds of that turning into something worthwhile.
Did you catch the Tottenham corner? There was one where they just chipped it to, like the corner was taking like a diagonal chip to the top of the box for, I can't remember who was running in.
And
the strike went wide or over, but yeah, there was one of those was in there as well.
Again, I'm good with it.
And there was a trick free kick. Do you remember the free kick that was shaped as if it was going to be crossed, but then it was played down the line? I think Crystal Dunn played it.
Yeah.
It's a really clever, nice little free kick.
So I'm good.
Expect all kinds of tricky set pieces from the US.
I'm good with design set pieces. I like that quite a bit.
Yeah. Anything else we want to talk about on this game before we move on?
I don't think so. Just again that it's even though it's 5-3, I know there were concerns in the post-match presser about the United States conceding multiple goals in multiple games this year. But again, I think it's Australia who are a seeded team. They're going to be in a tough group with Italy, Brazil, and Jamaica. But I think to get a win against a World Cup opponent is always going to be a confidence boost. And then I think you could see that while I might have some concerns at the end of the game when the final whistle went, the players did not seem too concerned. They seemed thrilled. Very, very happy.
Yes. They especially looked happy from Mallory Pugh, which I think we figured out afterwards is because Colorado is where she's from.
Yes,
right?
I think so.
I keep saying that as if I definitely know it. I'm pretty sure that's true.
Yeah, it is. There was a lot of like hometown homer questions, like self-acknowledged hometown homer questions.
I bet she's not from Commerce City, Colorado.
I would guess
which is
not.
Actually where that stadium is.
I would guess not.
Somewhere in Colorado.
I did enjoy all the players like mobbing her at the end and hugging her, and then Ali Long just kind of like picks her up bear hug style and won't let her go. And you can see Mallory Pugh be like, "Okay, I'm done with this. Like, I've been picked up enough tonight."
Maybe that's how teams will try and mark her at the World Cup.
That would make sense. It's a good way to deal with it.
Okay. There'll be more Total Soccer Show tomorrow.
There will.
On Friday. I'll be talking to Joe Lowry about MLS tactical trends. A lot of people have been asking for more MLS content. That's going to be a good one. I'm saying in advance, I'm fairly confident it's going to be a good one.
I've enjoyed my conversation with Joe. I'm sure you will as well.
Oh, yeah, I haven't got to talk to him yet. Right. Okay. Also, if you enjoyed this show about the US Women's National Team, and maybe you want to read a great book about the US Women's National Team, we mentioned at the top of the show, The National Team by Caitlin Murray is out now. You can order it at USWNTbook.com. But this is not an ad. This is a giveaway. This is a contest. We're going to give our one copy away. But here's what we're going to ask in return. We're going to ask you to help promote the book. To enter the contest to win the giveaway, here's what you got to do. Tweet, I want this book. Preferably exclamation mark.
Yeah.
Then you put the link USWNTbook.com so that other people can see the book that you want. And then so that we can find it, the hashtag USWNTbook. Hashtag USWNTbook.
Okay.
Just do those 3 things. Tweet that.
You have it written down in front of you. Let me see if I can do it from memory. Because if I can do it, then
anyone can do it.
Should be able to. I want this book, preferably with an exclamation point. I have forgotten the address.
USWNTbook.com. Well done to Caitlin or Caitlin's publishers for getting that URL.
Yep.
Because that is the perfect URL for a USWNT book.
And then hashtag TSS.
No, hashtag USWNT book.
Yeah, couldn't
do it.
You know what I'm
going to do? I'm going to write this in the show notes. So if anyone can't remember it, they can easily just copy and paste it.
Hashtag TSS?
don't mess up the giveaway. So yeah, if you...
book I want.
If you do that, you'll be helping promote Caitlin's book, and you really should be promoting soccer books being published in the US. Right?
You should.
You'll also be entering, I'll pick at random, everyone who does that, I'll pick at random a winner, and then we will send you the copy that we have here in the office.
Mm-hmm. And I have the excuse if it's 1:30 in the morning. That's why I can't remember things. My brain doesn't work past 1 a.m.
Oh, that wasn't a joke when you said hashtag TSS? That was actually...
Oh, no, that was, the TSS part was a joke. Not being able to remember the web address was a little bit more so brain being fried.
The web address.
Yeah.
All right.
The World Wide Web address.
Yeah.
The internet's.
Taylor Rockwell.
If you're surfing the net, put in that web browser.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.
The net was real.